When it rains, it pours. Not only were the Guardians suspended, today with the game that will resume tomorrow, but Justin was at the game and the weather is preventing him from joining us. So you're losing out for two things on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's show is brought to you by Bunches. Download the Bunches app today. When you do, our friends at Bunches have featured Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click on the link in the description and show notes to join Locked On MLB Bunch community today. And that fits because we have a bunch of things to talk about. In general, we've got Tito, and that information is, I think we can all connect the dots at this point, but we'll discuss it a bit. We're going to talk about his place in history. Talk about this game that we didn't even get 3 innings of and what's going to happen tomorrow and what roster moves might accompany it. And we're going to spend some time talking about the minors, getting to go in depth, talk about some things that stand out, some interesting performances, and just some performances that happened the day that I was recording this, the 23rd. So let's start with the game itself. We get what is up with the starting pitching and first inning home runs. Everyone wants to get on the party now. Not the strongest start for Curry, let's be honest. 5 hits in 2 innings. It's a lot of base runners. Of course, it led to the 3 runs. Kershaw, is this going to be the only chance you ever have to see him in Cleveland? I understand why Justin wanted to go out and see this. You want to see that Hall of Famer. Jose did take him deep, but you got to assume neither of these guys are pitching tomorrow, which sets both these teams up to have to go immediately into the pen. And you're hoping that, your game 2 starter can go deep to help save your team a bit. And it's going to be interesting to see because they're resuming tomorrow. Tomorrow's matchup, you have Gavin Williams versus Ryan Pepot in the evening game, but at noon or 12:10, I think actually they're going to resume today's game in Cleveland. And, it's going to be interesting again to see who is going to be the guy. Are they going to call someone up who can help? Because you want someone who can jump right in and give you a few innings because they need quite a few more in this one. That each pitcher has gone 2 innings in this, and then did Curry get through 3, or is it he was in the middle of 3? Was what was happening? I'm trying to remember. Oh no, he threw a pitch. So both these guys are done for the day. I'm just looking over to see what Justin did. Justin, he's stuck. Bad weather. He's completely stuck. So yes, you're stuck with me as well, on today's show. Listen, seeing Jose go deep, that puts him at 19. We have a chance to get the 20 home runs. There's a part of me that's been worried all year. No one would hit 20 home runs in the major leagues for this team. Curry, I think we're all focused, rightfully so, on Williams, Allen, and Bybee. Curry's another rookie who's really stepped up for this team, and it's a real credit, in my opinion, for as much as, and we're all guilty of this, I am as well. I get very stuck on Nolan Jones, and I'm going to continue to get stuck on Nolan Jones because, listen, the Rockies weren't going to roster Juan Brito. I'm pretty sure you could have gotten him for something less, but they were just set on not getting Juan Brito, which, he's going to be a top 5 prospect. Adding Juan Brito is good. I just wish they could have done it at a cheaper price. Nolan Jones would fix a lot of ills with this team. But I say this to then go back to the positive of, you at least have to consider Xavier Curry as a starter for next year with as well as he has pitched. I know he's been great in that long role, but can you stretch him out? Is there more there? There was times maybe about a year or 2 ago where he was just outside the top 10. He's about the 11th or 12th best prospect in system. And a lot of people thought he could be a starter. And, you add him to the wealth of riches they have in terms of pitching. I think we look past him. Because again, Williams and Bybee are going to get Rookie of the Year votes, or at least they should. Maybe not top of the ballot, but they should be getting down the ballot votes. And, Allen has also been really good. And then you got Curry. We've talked about why Cantillo can be successful. And we don't really have I want to save it for Justin because we've discussed this so much and we really haven't had that opportunity to really dive in and discuss it. But where the trade value is on this team is going to be interesting and something we'll discuss this offseason. So we have these two games. I kind of feel like, listen, Peyton Batenfield pitched tonight. I'll talk about that a little bit in segment 3. So he's not coming up. In terms of pitchers who are on the 40-man, Cantillo pitched, this is Wednesday. So Cantillo pitched Tuesday. I'm not sure when Gaddis pitched last, if I am perfectly honest. But you got Gaddis and Morris, and those are the only guys on your 40-man. Who are pitchers who are not hurt. Cal Quantrell, yes, you could technically call him up, but he's also pitched recently. I believe that is the last 3 starts were Quantrell, Cantillo, and Battenfield. So it feels like you got to call up Cody Morris, who's been a bullpen arm. He did not pitch in the game last night. It went Battenfield to Valmont. Again, we'll discuss that a little bit more in depth. But it feels like you got to call up Cody Morris and then hope you can get a few innings out of him. It feels like you're going to be going deep into that pen tomorrow. And then you really need, Gavin Williams to go out there and go at least 6 strong, if not more, for this team, or it's gonna be a brutal game on Thursday. But I mean, on the other side of it, the Dodgers bullpen has had its issues this year. That's why they went out and added so many pitchers at the deadline and tried to get even more. Remember, they were unable to add Eduardo Rodriguez because for some reason he wanted to stay in Detroit and play for a team that had no chance of the postseason. A really fun, interesting team. Justin and I had a whole off-air conversation about why that Tigers team might be the sleeper team in the Central for next year. But that is a fun young Tigers team. And I mean, I assume he's going to opt in just because he's happy. If he opts in, then it makes slightly more sense. But focusing on Cleveland, the other thing I thought was kind of funny is I was reading the Mandy Bell articles today. Mandy does a fantastic job. But I love the fact that, like, on the article talking about Tito and the article talking about Cole Calhoun, the guy who kept getting quoted is Will Brennan. So it feels like Will Brennan is just the guy in the clubhouse this year. Mr. Good Vibes, wants to talk about everything. But it's interesting, again, to focus on Cole Calhoun because he has been great. And I keep talking about, he is, retirement age, at least the equivalent of in baseball. He's going to be 36 soon. I'm kind of curious, what is people's view on Cole Calhoun? So comment below. Do you want him back next year? Do you think he has done enough? Or are we all staring at the Kareem Garcia situation, which is always going to be my reference? I was in I was in college when Kareem Garcia had that great run at the end of the season for the Cleveland Indians at the time. It was spectacular. It was only like 20 games, but I remember sitting there playing Dark Cloud 2 on my PS2. Maybe it was 1. I think it was PS2 though. And playing that game and listening to Guardians games on the radio and being like, we have found the outfielder of the future. Not to say Cole Calhoun is the outfielder of the future, but do you think this is a guy who should stay? I'm kind of curious to see what people's thoughts and takes are. It was interesting to see some of the stuff again in Mandy's article where it's like, Jose is a leader, but he's a quiet leader. And I guess they talked about like when Cole Calhoun messed up and couldn't dig out those throws. They told him he didn't have to wear it, but he sat there and talked to media and dealt with it. And I would highly recommend go checking out those articles because it does make it seem like there's some leadership missing with this team this year. And, you wouldn't expect Savale, he's not really a younger guy, was a mid-tier guy to have been their leader, but I think it was supposed to be like Ahmed and Jose. And it just feels like maybe this team needed a bit of a veteran presence. So I'm kind of curious to hear, do you think there was a leadership void? Comment below. And Cole Calhoun, do you think he has done enough to earn himself more opportunities going forward? We're going to come back from our break and discuss Tito Francona on today's Locked On Guardians. Got the old double sounder there, and it's a good ad when it is the double sounder. Okay, Locked On Guardians fans, I have to tell you about a new app called Bunches. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you can chat sports in real time. Click the link in the show notes /description to join the app or go to the Apple App Store and download Bunches now. I'm telling you, you're going to love conversations with other Locked On sports fans. So make sure that Bunches is a free app that you can get through the Apple store. So download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description in the show notes to join the Locked On MLB Bunches community today. So go check out Bunches, a fun new way to talk with other baseball fans. Remind you to check out both games tomorrow. Just type Guardians into Sirius XM radio, and you will get to hear the dulcet tones of Hammy talking about the game. And I assume Terry Francona, because this has to be the story of the day. It was reported in multiple places. I'm going to take this from Zach Meisel's Twitter on Tito's health. We had his statements yesterday. And when the season's over, I need to get my shoulder replaced. That's pretty lengthy. I also have 2 hernias repaired. Every winter, I also have to have 2 hernias, which means repaired. Every winter, I've been trying to get healthy for the season, and then I get beat up. I need to get healthy for life. This lifestyle is just too difficult. I went to the doctor this morning just to set these things up, trying to be logical. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Tito's done. Let's be honest. This is the final year. Cleveland's going to have a new manager. He's not saying explicitly that he is retiring, but he's setting up 3 surgeries. You can put maybe 2. You maybe take care of both hernias at once. When I was 3, I had a double hernia, so I don't really remember it, but I was told, they took care of both at once. So if it's a double hernia, knock that out. And no, I don't know how a 3-year-old gets a double hernia. But looking at everything here, I don't see how he's coming back. Like, he had the issue with it. He's had other health issues this year, just the one. Like, his health has been pretty good the last 2 years, all things considered, where it was back previously. But he's more beat up than anyone on this team. And at his age and just continuing health issues, he's going to retire with the most wins in franchise history, past Lou Bujoe. It'll be interesting to kind of go through, because he gets credit for all the wins even when he wasn't there. Like when Sandy Alomar was manager, when DeMario Hale was manager. I'd be kind of curious. Maybe we'll look this offseason and kind of subtract out those games and just see. I think he'd still be number 1. And he is just, I've talked about a lot of times on the show, they only made the World Series once with him. But this has been the best run this team's had. I mean, teams bottom out throughout baseball. Essentially, since he came to Cleveland, they haven't bottomed out. They have had the worst season is either this year or 2021. 2019, right? And 2021 wasn't that great either. But no, 2019 was fine. That's the year that they got hosed by the old draft system. But it was 21 in this year. And kind of shows that 2022 was a degree of luck, but also a degree of really bad luck these last 2 years in terms of health. But he's just, I don't see how he can come back. Shoulder replacement and 2 hernias. He's not going to be ready. So I don't have that answer for who the next manager is going to be. I think it will be external. I honestly think it's going to be an external candidate. I do not think it's going to be an internal candidate, but I think he's done. I just don't think there's enough health. I just think the health is what it is, and it's going to make him impossible to continue. If you're curious about his place on the all-time wins list, he's currently 13th with 1,934. He can't pass Leo DeRocha, who's at 2,008. He passed Gene Monch and Casey Stengel this year. Bill McKinney, I think he passed Lou Piniella last year. Everyone, by the way, who is in the top 20, there's only 2 guys in the top 20 for total wins who don't have a World Series. Gene Monch, who also had a below 500 winning percentage, and Buck Showalter. The other funny one is that Connie Mack, your all-time, wins leader, is also below 500. Your current active wins leader is Dusty Baker, and then Bruce Bochy is also ahead of Terry Francona. So he's top 15. Buck Showalter is still managing. And then let's see. So you got Showalter, Francona, Baker, Bochy, and then to get to the next active manager on this list, I think it's Bud Black at 57. I wish they had a better color code. No, Bob Melvin at 25. I'm sorry. I just didn't see him in there at 1,495. And then after that is former Cleveland Indians pitcher Bud Black. So, yeah, he is, it's a fantastic career. It is a well-deserved break for Terry Francona, but the writing's on the wall. He is going to be out at the end of the year. They're going to have to find someone who can step in, and it's going to be a rough transition just because he has been the franchise's rock for a decade. He has been there, been one of those things you can count on. While they have different points of view, it's very clear front office and him have a great working environment. And I mean, all you can say at this point in time is I wish Terry Francona well. I assume someday he'll be in the Hall of Fame for a manager, probably with Boston, because that's where he won his World Series. But I think, we saw his statements yesterday, and then we saw the statements today. And I just, is there anyone out there, comment below, who actually thinks that he's going to be back next year? I just don't see a way. So we're just going to tip of the cap to Terry. Yes, my hair is a disaster, but he's earned it. He has been, so you got to take the 2 times they won the World Series, right? And those are the top 2 runs this organization has ever had. The 90s, 2 World Series, very close. That's got to be 3rd best. This is the 4th best run in franchise history. And, he's been the manager of it. He's the author of it. So Terry Francona, thank you. I don't think there's anything else to say, but thank you for putting your body on the line and being the bedrock of this team for a decade plus. We're going to talk some prospects on a rainy day in Cleveland and a super hot day in Milwaukee, a weird weather day, in a second on today's Locked On Guardians. And we have a consistent advertiser here, our good friends over at Sleeper. Want the chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, the #1 sports app, where you can win 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Do you think that Jose Ramirez can hit another homer tomorrow against whoever they bring out for that rain game, or against Ryan Pepiot in the afternoon? Well, I don't know if I want to say we sure do, but we think there's a good chance. He's the best chance of a home run, that's for sure. On Sleeper, you can swing for the fences with up to 100 times payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players you like, select more or less on their stat category, like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. They also have dynamic payouts, which are live. What is that? In short, each player projection now has a multiplier attached to it, as opposed to a preset multiplier based on the number of legs in a contest. With dynamic payouts, payouts also come more stat categories to place contests on. You can get a higher payout than other apps with less picks. Use the promo code Locked On. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And I want to remind you to check out tomorrow's game on SiriusXM Radio. Just type Guardians into Sirius, and they will take you directly to the game. Let's talk some prospects. I got some things pulled up right now. To make extra degree of difficulty, my mouse decided to die in the middle of the show, so we're just going to move that over here and plug this in. Not that it's going to function for me, but yeah, maybe we're just extra difficulty, right? We're at it. We're making the challenge level higher. But let's start talking AAA. Peyton Badenfield today, 7 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, only 4 Ks, gave up 4 earned runs on a home run. That's a solid performance for him. He is someone who has the potential to help this team again later this year. He was a bit of a surprise. He was kind of left for prospect rankings dead after his struggles a year ago. And, luckily he didn't get selected in the Rule 5, and he came back, and he had some ups, he had some downs, but he ended up being a valuable depth arm for Cleveland. Looking at this AAA team, you have to love that Lavastida managed to pick someone off at second base and stole a base, which is, again, why I think you have to roster him. His athleticism is kind of rare for the position. Down in AAA, Jose Tena is continuing to hit well. Lavastida's numbers have come back a little bit. Valera, he had a hit in Milwaukee, got on base twice. On how Angel Martinez, he is probably my biggest prospect disappointment this year, just in terms of where I had him relative to everyone else. It's not been great. That is the player that's probably my biggest disappointment overall in terms of prospect rankings. It's either him or Valera, because I thought Valera would see the big leagues this year. And he's still hitting below 200 and has that health issue. Happy with Lavastia's bounce back. Wish he's kept it up at a little bit of a higher level. Johnathan Rodriguez, we're going to talk about more in a moment. And then I went down to Double A as well to kind of look at what was happening down there. And it was really nothing to talk about. Aaron Bracho's hitting a lot of home runs, and his OPS is good. He's still not a top 30 guy to me. I'm not all that high on him. For Nunzio, yes, PD Alpin did have a double. His 19th of the year tonight. The Ducks got crushed by Altoona. This Double A team is, we had some people ask us about Bryce Ball. He's an interesting prospect, but just in terms of his size profile. But there's a reason why the Cubs let him go. Brito had 2 walks. Tolentino had 2 walks. It's kind of an ugly situation right now with that Double A squad, with the promotions that happen, and then guys just not stepping up. We'll see what happens. And again, to go back to what I talked about in segment 1, they have graduated so many pitchers this year. Yeah, the list is lesser, but there's still good talent. Is Baseball America or MLB on their re-rank? This is still the number 1 prospect pool in the division, which says a lot, because the Tigers and Royals have been picking in the top 10 every year for like the last 6 years, and somehow this is still the best prospect pool. They're still finding good players. I think we get a little too down on the system of points, because a year ago it looked really good, but at the same time, look at the graduations, and we'll point to the lower minors. And that's how it always is. Like right now, the ladder looks great. What Rafi Velasquez and Churio have done has been fantastic. We've got to see these guys move up. Parker Messick, I don't know why he's not in Double A already. Like, he was one of the most accomplished pitchers in college baseball a year ago, and somehow Paul Skeens is in Double A before he is. And Messick's been in the had that extra year in the minors. I don't understand some of that, because they've been so aggressive the past few years, and then this year feels like the minor league slow push that it was back in 2019, outside of some of those pitching prospects to the majors when they had no choice. It's a little bit odd. So many ums. I apologize for those now. I did want to talk about minor league performance. Let me pull the right tab. So, we spent a lot of time talking about Johnathan Rodriguez. He has the minor league triple crown for the Guardians right now. Now, if you're listening to the show, you know that I don't really care about RBIs, but it's still interesting when this happens. So what does Johnathan Rodriguez currently lead the minors in? It might be a better question to ask what he doesn't lead the Cleveland Guardians minor league is in. He leads the team in batting average, home runs, RBIs, slugging, OPS, hits, extra base hits, total bases. It's almost every offensive category. So he's not in runs. He's only 7th there. The only list he may not be on at all is stolen bases. Guy Lincecum is number 1 in that. By the way, Jose Devers, 3rd in the minors in stolen bases. Trying out the new pause function tonight, so I'm not coughing on the mic from talking too much. But Devers is starting to hit a bunch of home runs. It's now like 9 in the last month and a half. 3rd in the minors in stolen bases. Just want a sleeper to watch. Keep your eye on Jose Devers. But triples. No Johnathan Rodriguez. That's another one he's not on, but he is. And then walks. Yeah, that's not his skill point, but yeah, he's just doing it all offensively. 8th in doubles, so he's just an extra base, which again makes sense to lead the team in extra base hits. Total bases. This is kind of fascinating. He has 229 total bases. I know they just, called up Zach Collins, but Zach Collins has had the whole year in that park in AAA. He's at 173. So quick math, 27 plus 29 would take you get to 36, 56. 56 more bases than the number 2 guy. Home runs, he's got 6 more than John Kenzie Noel. Batting average, 5 points ahead of Schneemann and Rocchio. On base percentage, he's further down the line. He is 7th because he doesn't walk that much. That's the issue in his game. Slugging percentage, he has 84 points higher than Daniel Schneemann, who, again, if you want to know why that AAA park is a bandbox that is not good for hitter or pitcher development, Daniel Schneemann is he's not necessarily a slap hitter, but most people would probably describe him as such. Almost all of his home runs have been at home. He's second in the minors in OPS. He is someone who should get an opportunity this year. Like, I appreciate they gave Tana his chance, but if they need another infielder, bring up Schneemann for the year. He has earned it with his performance. Let the guy play. And then just kind of interesting to look at OPS because, Jose Devers, who is popping up, is at 10. Mike Capriz, who a lot of myself included, it was kind of a disappointing year. He's 9th. And then two guys they have to make decisions about, Diane Frias and Wilfredo Antunez, are 8th and 7th overall in OPS in the minors. Will they add them? Won't they add them? We'll have to wait and see. I think Frias over Antunez is my thought right now. Brito 3rd for the disappointment with various things. But for as good of a hitter as Brito is, he has 104 hits. That's actually the same as Angel Martinez and Brian Rocchio, who has been up for a while, but 120 for Johnathan Rodriguez. It's not just that he leads the team in so many categories. It's that he leads the team by a significant margin in a lot of categories. That is what really stands out to me. I think the only other player that leads this team in the minors in multiple categories is Nate Furman, who it's not been great for him moving up the ladder, but he still has the highest on-base percentage and scored the most runs, and he's number 2 in stolen bases. So, yeah, you look at this list, and I mean, I'm going to go back and say you have to add Johnathan Rodriguez. That level of performance, add him. He was the youngest player in his draft class. Took him a while. He finally started to get together last year. They don't have guys like him in their minors. And yeah, he could be Oscar Gonzalez. But if he's a better version, then that plays. I don't know what you do, but I think, as I go through these lists, it's very clear to me you have to add Espino, you have to add Rodriguez, you have to add Lavastida. We can now talk about that next tier. Guys like Cade Smith, Wilfredo Antunez, Diane Frias, and I know I'm forgetting someone. It's okay. You can write below what name I'm forgetting to talk about. But I think going back to, I saw you in the comments, Zach, making fun of enjoying the Kyle Farmer reference. I'm going to reference you again because you asked that question. I said, no, I don't think I'm going to change my answer from a week ago. I think he is a must-add. I don't know. It's just something about seeing not just his level of performance, but the separation. And he started the year in Akron, which is, guys hit for power there. It's a big park, but we've seen a lot, like Yu Chang, I think it might have changed, but he had the home run record there. Guys hit for a lot of power. Park factor isn't always great there, but like you can have these Bracho years, but Columbus is an absolute bandbox. Those guys should be higher than him in categories like home runs. And that's why, like, if you look at the top 10 home run hitters in the minors this year, 6 of the 10 only played in Columbus. Brito played at 2 levels. Bracho's only been in Akron, and Rodriguez played at 2 levels. I'm sorry. That's 7 out of 10 were Columbus for a reason. But yeah, I think we should be talking Johnathan Rodriguez a little bit more. I think just, again, it's not just fantastic performance, it's level of performance. And then pitching-wise, Will Dion is the only guy with an ERA under 3 in the minors. And I know he tops out at 91. I'm not saying you throw him in the pen right away, but who was dominant through the minors, was not a big guy, and kept getting looked at as a not real prospect, never got top 10 love, never got top 15 love for most people, was Eli Morgan, who has turned into an effective major league pitcher. Dion's a lefty. He pitches, he's got some reminiscent in the way he throws, not in stuff, but in the way he throws to Kershaw. So I think Dion, just looking at some stuff here, you really got to talk about him and his performance level this year. Because again, he leads the minors in win percentage, whip, average, ERA. He's across the board in a lot of categories. He's not quite the Johnathan Rodriguez, but he is close. I want to thank you all for joining me on this solo show. Make sure you comment below on what you like, didn't like, what I could do better, and what I messed up. I appreciate all of you joining me, and thank you for your kindness. And go, Guardians, go.